All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming over to this theater session. My name is Kara Wanagatimu. I am with Microsoft Teams Engineering, and I'm responsible for adoption and worldwide training for Microsoft Teams. But I really work in the teamwork space. I have a long background in SharePoint and Project and Yammer and all the other workloads that are in Office 365. And so what I want to talk with you today is about modernizing core scenarios. And I also want to check in the back. Can you all hear me in the back there? Is it okay? All right, good. That's great. So I believe we are going to be streaming this. So for the folks who are going to be consuming this online, you'll be able to find all of the materials on the technical community, Microsoft technical community. So if you want to get this deck or see the demonstration I'm going to do again, you'll be able to get it there. So let's talk a little bit about modern teamwork. Now, the first slide I'm going to show you here is actually what other speakers use as their ending slide. It's the resource slide. I use this first here because you're not going to remember anything I tell you 4 days from now, right? And I know a lot of people from this conference who are going on vacation right after this because you need a vacation after Microsoft Ignite. So I have one main call to action for all of you to learn about Microsoft Teams, all of Office 365, and how to modernize your business scenarios. Join the Office 365 Champions program. That is a free program where we have a dedicated forum on the Microsoft technical community. We have monthly calls where I'm explaining, how to use Office 365 services better, how to drive adoption in your organization, and you'll get to learn from each other, which is the most important thing, right? Learning from other customers who are going through the similar issues you are is the best way to really increase your knowledge in this space. So it's free, no cost to you. Come and join us out there and get the most from everything you're learning from Ignite when you want to go back and figure out how to implement it. Microsoft Teams, how many of you are using Teams right now? Excellent. Okay, that's great. How many of those same folks are you using the mobile experience at all? Great. Okay. Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. It's a reasonably new workload for those of you who don't know much about it, and it's really bringing together all of the capabilities of Office 365 into this central hub for teamwork. And what that does is it helps your users not have to switch between 20 browser windows to get their job done. So it does take some work to make sure that people can think and do and work differently. And that's why it's really about the people. It's about the people and how they're working and what they're doing more than it is about the bright, shiny objects of the features in the product. So Microsoft Teams does give you that ability to communicate differently. You can have meetings, so we support chat and calling in there. You can collaborate on documents in Office 365 and other types of assets within it. You can customize and extend it. For any of you who have development staff in your organizations or you have custom applications in your companies, you can integrate those applications with Microsoft Teams. And we have several sessions here discussing how really simple it is to be able to do that and leverage things like Cortana skills and other things inside the product. It's all built on top of Office 365. And what that means is all the security and compliance capabilities that you're used to with SharePoint and Exchange and other workloads are available. So you don't have to think, oh, this is something new. I have to worry about how it's going to be secured. No, it's secured in the same way that Office 365 is. So those are important pieces. These are some of the examples of the kinds of scenarios that you can improve by implementing Microsoft Teams. From sales scenarios, customer support, engineering, finance, marketing. These are all places where people need to work together to achieve a common goal. And that's really the purpose of Microsoft Teams, is to be able to achieve that goal together with less friction and less difficulty. So we hope to get there. Now, when I teach this quite a bit, and I like to talk to people about modernizing the core scenarios first, right? There are some basic things that many people need to have be more frictionless in their environment. Project management, personal productivity, and calling and meetings. So in this particular theater session, we're going to go ahead and talk about the the project management space Because everybody manages a project. That may not be your title, but everybody has this situation where they have to get things done, and they deal with the same difficulties. These hallway conversations mean everybody's out of alignment. That people don't know where the version of the spec document is or the project scope. I'm going to ask all of you to join me, and please stop emailing that spreadsheet around. Stop it. Stop doing that. We have cloud services for file storage. It's called SharePoint or OneDrive. But people spend so much time looking for the appropriate version of a document, and it is the bane of project managers like me's existence. There's also confusion about accountability because things aren't clear. So in Teams, we're able to solve some of those problems. Now, this is going to be a slide that you are going to take with you after the fact, okay? So what we're saying here is, in modern project management, you communicate, collaborate, and manage these things differently. And you can take this in phases and steps. I'm not suggesting that you have to do it all at once, but when you do, when you get there, it really changes your experience. So by communicating, you can do all that close team communication in chat. And I will tell you that at Microsoft, I've been there for like 7 years. I used to work on Microsoft IT. I do a lot of project management. This is what I do. I usually get on average about 1,200 to 1,500 emails a day. So on a slow day, it's around 900. And so a lot of those emails used to be, hey, have you looked at that document? Did you update the project plan? Are you coming to that meeting? Okay. My email is now more valuable because many of those projects are now being run in Teams. As a matter of fact, all of my projects are in Teams because then I can see all of that conversation. The other thing that happens very frequently is we have people change roles inside of Microsoft, or I get additional people onto the project. And having all that conversation within Microsoft Teams enables me to onboard people more quickly. They can see all of what's been happening rather than somebody having to spend a half an hour forwarding them a bunch of emails, from the situation. Of course, we do Teams meetings there for all of our stand-ups. And I'm going to show you some of these two new things, SharePoint news pages and live events. But moving on, collaboration, of course, is being able to collaborate on the documents in one place. In case you don't know, Microsoft Teams is backed by SharePoint. When you store documents in Microsoft Teams, you're actually putting them in the SharePoint site that comes with your team. So that gives you a lot of options, too, for advanced capabilities. If you're the type of organization that adds particular additional columns to your documents, or you want to do workflows with them, all of that's available to you through SharePoint. But for most people, they just need a common place to store their information, right, that's secure. We can do forms, we can have shared notes, and then I'm going to talk with you a little bit about Planner. So this is the slide that is the checklist of the things that you can use in Microsoft Teams. Now let me show you how it actually works. And you'll have to excuse my voice. I have been presenting a lot, so it's a little raspy today. Let's hop out here. Now, I am here in the web version of Microsoft Teams. So hopefully you know this already. There's a desktop client, there's the web version, and there's the mobile version. They're very, very similar and close together in terms of what they're able to do. There are a few differences, but for these scenarios, there's really not. And the thing to remember is, I'm not a project manager in just one city. Just because I travel to Florida doesn't mean that all of my projects back home stop, right? And so I can use my mobile device, or I can use my laptop on the road to stay connected to my projects while they're working. So I'm going to show you the project that we call the Teamwork Champions project. We recommend that people have champion programs inside an organization. And so in this general channel here, whenever you create a team, you get a general channel. That is by default. And by default, you get an area for conversation, you get an area for files, and you will get a wiki. Now, a wiki is a really great place to store standard information that isn't necessarily going to change a lot. Now, if you have a development background, you may be familiar with wikis as a place to do development documentation, and then it's a co-authoring experience, and people change them very quickly. That's totally a great way to use wiki. But in my project management scenario, how I use the wiki is for reference information that I want everyone on the team to see. Okay, so if you're a new person on the team, you immediately can find these resources. And if I need to change them, I can change them there, and everyone will see that, right? Instead of sending around the email that tells everyone where this stuff is in SharePoint, okay? Now, the other thing that I'm able to do is I'm able to integrate that SharePoint site. Now, what I'm showing you here is I've done a little bit of out-of-the-box customization to the SharePoint site that's attached to this particular team. And the reason that I do that is most project managers need to communicate about their project. And what we are asking you to think about is using the SharePoint site that's attached to your team to do that communication. Make it public, just that site. That way your core team can work together in the team, and that is an area where you manage the membership, but the site itself can be used to do all of your communication. So I'm going to hop out here actually to this site. Excuse me. Now I'm out in the site that's attached to my team, and what I've done here is I have a news section at the top. I've integrated the calendar from that particular team. So every Microsoft team also has an Office 365 group, which means it has a calendar. And that calendar is fantastic for project meetings, right? You want to use it for that. So reoccurring meetings, your standard, I happen to use this for office hours for this particular team, those sorts of things. And I can use a web part on my SharePoint page to show that. And of course, I've also got the document library here. But that's not where it stops. I'm going to go ahead and add a new news article. And what I want you to think about is the bane of almost every project manager's, make sure I clicked on that, existence, which is creating status reports. Right? Status reports are one of those things that I don't know about you. I'm not terribly fond of writing all the time. They're just they're necessary evil that you have to do. And I'm going to maybe refresh my page here and see what happens. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is connected. Okay, let's give this a shot now. There we go. You know, the demo gods have not actually been with me at this conference. Let's try one more thing here. No, that's not going to do it. Let's give it one more time. So what I really want to do is I want to be able to take this page and I want to add a new one. But I'm actually just going to edit this one because what I'm going to change it to, let's do it this, there we go. Okay, yay, that's awesome. All right, so now I'm going to call this a status report real quickly. Now, I'm going to just make this a very simple status report. But what I want you to think about is that you can embed images, documents, Power BI dashboards, Visual Studio information, which is now called Azure DevOps, anything that you would put in that email status report that you would send out about your project, you can put on this page. And guess what? Then it's not trapped in people's email box. The new person that comes on the team can easily see all of those status reports that you had. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do something like just make this a little color block text. You can change the way this is a modern SharePoint page, straight out of the box, no customization. You can do any changes that you want to this. Now what I want to do right here is up the top, I'm going to go ahead and let it be just one column. Now I'm going to come here. There we go. All right, this is the list of all of the various kinds of web parts that you can put in here. Think of a web part just like a little section. It's just like a little section of information that you may want to drop into the page that you're working on. So it could be an event, it could be a document library. All I'm going to do right here for the sake of the fact that this is a theater session is I'm going to go ahead and say, here is the update for September 2018. Okay. Now, I made this 2 sections, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say File Viewer. This allows me to see any of the documents that I've saved on my particular site. Now, I don't know about you, but when I do like executive readouts or status reports to management, I often do that in a PowerPoint because they're visual people and they'd like to see a summary, but then sometimes they want to drill into more information. That's what the status report usually is for, is that more detailed information. But I'm just going to pretend that this particular PowerPoint slide was my executive review, and I'm going to embed it on that page. It gives me an opportunity to tell you what slide I want to start on, and I'm just going to go ahead and publish this. Now, obviously, in a regular status report, you'd have many more sections and what have you, but for the purpose of demo, you know, this is good. Now, what's going to happen over here when I come to the home is I now have a new news item. Oh, you know what I did is I forgot to pick a background. Let me go ahead and edit this because it is quite useful to have a visual background in your particular for your header. And the reason is there's a wonderful SharePoint mobile app that you can use, and the visual here is shown in the scroll of that mobile app. So it just looks better. I'm just going to go to the web. I'm going to say backgrounds. This is all, again, built in. I'm going to pick a different color background and say, okay. It's going to put it there. I can move it around if I want to. Now I'm going to republish here. I'm going to go back to home, and two things will have happened, all right? There's my status report, but if I also refresh that here in the team, I'm going to see the same thing. The status report's now available in the team, right? So again, you're reducing the context switching of how quickly people have to hop around and see things. Now, I can send that page by email. If I have somebody who really is a stakeholder and isn't going to come to the SharePoint side or the team, I can send that page out via email. Good project management skills means you communicate with people where they are. You don't force them to come to where you are, right? But this allows you to manage your team more effectively because you can save information in one place. And for folks who aren't really thinking about SharePoint, there's a connector. And so I can actually connect the SharePoint news feed to my conversation in Teams. So every time, I'm going to go ahead and configure this for us. Every time that I publish one of those news posts, it's going to put a little post in the conversation feed. And I do that a lot. There's a huge partnership between Microsoft Teams and the SharePoint team. Now, right now, you can only subscribe to the news from the site that's associated with your team. But we're looking at the scenarios that would allow you to subscribe to news from other teams. So you could kind of bring it into a little news feed there, right? And it's very simple. You're just saving that. And then the next time I make a page, it's going to go ahead and give me that post. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this for the moment. The other thing I want to make sure to show here is that I've also got integrated another SharePoint site that has nothing to do with my particular project, but it's all the news in my company, right? And so I'm able to integrate that as well. But now let's go over here. All right. What's showing here on this page, so this particular project, I've got a general channel for general information. The Champions Corner is all the people who are working on the project together because they're called champions. And then I have a channel called Training and Best Practices where I hold these monthly meetings for people to learn more. So here, what I've done is I've created a meetup. That's a meeting that is in the channel, so it's open to everyone, right? It's open to everyone who's in that team. And why that's good is because if your project team is changing frequently or growing, sometimes what happens is, oh, I didn't come to the meeting. I didn't have it on my calendar, right? How often does that happen? And then you have to go back, and the person feels bad, right? So forget about the fact that they don't have the right information. Now they don't feel like part of the team. And if you're a good project manager, you want to make sure people are engaged in delivery, not just with their mind, but with their energy, right? With their passions. And that means being inclusive and not leaving people out and having good manners. So having these champion meetings for the team here allows me to be able to just automatically include anybody who is in the team. It's not publicly open to anyone in the organization, just the members of that team, because the team is private. You can join that, and it's great. And whenever you make these meetings, it automatically makes a meeting note place for you. It automatically creates that, so all the meeting notes are easily found. But now I want to move on also to make sure that I show this to the planner. Is anybody here using Planner already? Okay, fantastic. So I want you to think about the multiple levels of tasks that you have throughout your day. You have tasks that just you need to have. They're your personal tasks. I don't mean your personal life. I mean your own work tasks and reminders you need to have. There's multiple places in the stack right now you can store those. You can have them as Outlook tasks. You can have them in To-Do. There's a bunch of places you can do that. Other non-Microsoft products, whatever you want. But then you get into the team space, right? And for my teams, I have two types of teams, right? There's a team where there's 6, 7, 12, 25, 100 of us working on something, and we need to track the information that we are doing by topic and by a work stream. Planner is fantastic for that. Where Planner starts to where Planner stops and more organizational level project management tools begin is when that information in that plan needs to roll up to someone else, right? And that's when you should be thinking about Project Online or Visual Studio, again, now called Azure DevOps. Those are the bigger organizational portfolio and project management tools. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that I do is I take some of the milestones from my planner and I put it in that bigger tool. I don't have to track every action of my team. What my boss and my boss's boss wants to know is, what's the core delivery date of the thing I'm doing? And that's all I have to put in the big tool. And my team can work here in Planner. The reason I like to work in Planner, besides the fact it's got a great mobile app, is it's easy to do, okay? So I just want to show you this really quickly. This is what a default plan looks like. And I'm going to actually change this bucket to call it backlog. I do agile project management, so everything's in a backlog, and I organize it from there. Now, each one of these buckets, logistics, I'm going to add a new bucket, content review. This is the kind of work that we're doing. And so what I can do is I can capture ideas from the team meeting here. Translate all Ignite content. Somebody's not going to like that I put that up there, right? I can set a due date for that, right? I want to have this done by the end of October, right? And I could assign anybody from my team to this. This demo team happens to just have me, so I'm just going to assign it to myself. Now, once I've added that task, I can move it over here into this Kanban board style area, and I'm actually going to move it. Yeah, I'm going to move it. It's just going to take me a minute. Sometimes it does this to me, and I don't know why. I am going to actually do this. There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the idea is you have a bunch of ideas here. You have a bunch of tasks. You can move it into these buckets. The buckets should be the work streams of your project. Right, there's always, and if your project's simpler and you don't need to do it that way, you can have these buckets be people's names, it could be regions. You can organize your work any way that actually works for you, right? But the factor is that I can do that, and then once, I'm going to add a couple others. Book, hotel. I'm going to add another one here real quickly, which is standardized registration. Okay, so I'm going to go into one of these here. The Planner continues to improve its ability to do things like subtasks and connect and attach documents, and it has a very good mobile app. The other piece of it too is I can pop out to the Planner hub. This is unscripted, so we'll see how this works. Have the demo gods return to me? Yes, they have. And I can see this all in the web interface as well. So if I have multiple plans here, I can look at all of them in the web, right? But if I come back here, I can also add new descriptions. Of course, I can say that this is actually in process. You can customize these labels to call them whatever you want. And as I mentioned, add an attachment, a link, or from the SharePoint attached to this area. And when I make comments here, what happens is an email is sent to the person who owns this task. Every time I assign a task to somebody, they get an email attachment. Now we're working on actually translating that into a chat, into a personal chat, or giving you an option. But right now it's an email notification. Planner also sends me a notification if I have late tasks, which I happen to like. And I have a view in my personal Planner app in Teams that allows me to see all my late tasks in one place. I'm making it sound like my stuff is always late. It's not always late, but late tasks happen, right? And so you need to be able to manage that. Right? And so when I have that meeting of all of my leads, what's on my screen is this planner. And we are simultaneously editing our tasks and doing updates while we're meeting together all in one place, because you can do that here. And you can do that from the road. I have lots of PMs that are in the field with customers. They're out giving presentations just like this. And so they can join a video chat from their mobile device, switch over and update their tasks while they're talking, and off they go. Right? So if you work in a business where you have people in the field managing things in this way, and this is the very beginning and the basics of it, you can automate planner tasks. You can attach it to customer service requests. You can attach it to doing things like sales RFP requests, things of that nature. So being able to attach a flow to this so that you can have a planner task that watches an approval and then comes back and checks itself off. Right? So the capabilities here are endless, but first you have to get to Teams and start using Planner. So I know that I'm about to go over, so I just want to tell you one last thing. All of these items here that I'm teaching today are going to be delivered in the Custom Learning for Office 365 SharePoint site template. This SharePoint site template and associated web part will help people really understand how to work in teams. If you already have a training site, you'll be able to simply take this web part right here and drop it on your training site. If you don't, you can use our template for SharePoint Online to get access to all of our content for training on these tools and scenarios, and it's customizable on your end. So if you're not using OneDrive for some reason, you can uncheck that particular workload, but you'll still get access to Microsoft Teams and SharePoint and other things. So remember that link that I gave you at the very beginning? I'm going to put it back up again. If you want access to that template and also other information about getting more from Office 365 in this sort of a scenario, this is the place you're going to sign up. Okay? The Office 365 Champions Program is going to get you access to that custom learning for Office 365 site template, as well as the web part, and all of the training on how to install it. You do need to be an Office 365 administrator to do the install, so you'd need to work with your IT department on that potentially if that's not you. But it's a very simple automated package, which we have obviously built between the SharePoint engineering team and myself and my partners in content design. And here's the thing it really solves. We create a lot of content, but when I was a customer of Microsoft, I could never find it all, right? I could never remember where all the content was. And if I downloaded it and it changed, then I had the wrong information. So this site will stream the information directly to you so that you're able to get the most recent information. And it's all out of the box. It's very, very simple information here. I want to pop back to here. And I think I'm going to be able, so I can, the other thing I want to show you here is if you've got training in-house, maybe you do employee onboarding or there's expense training or any of that, you can add your own custom playlists to our app. And so your own training assets can show up in this web part very easily. And we're also going to be working with key partners over the course of time. So this is in beta right now. We have it open to a certain number of customers. We're going to be opening that more broadly in this next quarter. And then we're targeting, general release or the availability of the open source solution in January and coming up in the next year. So we're really excited about custom learning because we know that it's great to have all this technology, but it can be really daunting to get your users to use it. And we really want to help people be able to use it easily and seamlessly. But my advice to you is focus on those core scenarios. Improve your own project management. Get used to it and help your teams get used to it so that they can focus on being productive instead of the technology itself. Again, my name is Kara Wanagatimu. I'm always available to help all of you on LinkedIn and Twitter and through the Champions community. And I really appreciate all of you coming to this theater session. Thank you so much.